So before we get going, I have an Instagram now. You can find it in the top comment of this video, or find it on the main page because it's linked to the channel. Basketball stuff, non-basketball stuff on there. Anyway, we're going to talk about the OKC Thunder, who are 21-10. Paul George has been amazing and could end up as the 5th place MVP guy. On top of Schroeder, while I don't think he's been amazing, he's definitely been helping them, and it's been about a month since I've really made a video on these guys, and in that month they've been pretty damn good, so I figure it's worth talking about them a little bit. What are the chances of them improving? What are the chances of them falling off? What are the chances that they're the second best team in the Western Conference? A whole bunch of things, and I think a lot of it starts with Russell Westbrook. I don't think he has been as bad as some people want to make it out to be. Sure, the efficiency has sucked. I think his playmaking and his rebounding and his willingness to not dominate the ball all the time have still led to him being a pretty big positive for them. And we hope that if his efficiency can figure itself out from everywhere, from three, from the free throw line, then that combined with Paul George, who's just having an excellent season and then some, that could be a hell of a 1-2 punch. I mean, that could be legit 2 top 10 players in the same team, and sure, the offensive system is still not the best. It's a little better because Donovan's got a little bit more to work with in terms of Russ just not being give me the damn ball. But even so, last night against Utah, Russ chucked up a bad 3. Paul George had to figure it out in ISOs down the stretch, so it's not as good as it could be, but it's definitely been damn good. On top of, I think Steven Adams has been a little bit better defensively, stepping up on the pick and roll more often. Jeremy Grant's 3s are going in. A whole lot of things are just working. But the question I have now is this team complete? Is there another move they could make? To me, I think they could really use a knockdown shooter. Alex Abrinas has played about 20 minutes a game. He's played nearly the whole season. He's only shooting 33% from outside. If you could turn his minutes into, let's say, Wayne Ellington, I think that would be amazing. Ellington's on a 1-year deal with about $6 million, so I think he's pretty attainable. There were rumors in the offseason about OKC trying to get Courtney Lee. He may be a little too expensive, but, someone like Wayne or someone that I just can't think of, I think could definitely help them out. That could also potentially help out Terrence Ferguson some because his shooting has been bad. Even so, I think they've been able to survive with him playing as much as he has, but I could picture that catching up with them in the long run. So whether that's giving his minutes to Diallo, who defensively has looked pretty legit, or maybe it's getting 2 new wings, Because it is kind of wild that OKC is this good with Terrence Ferguson and Alex Abrinas playing as much as they are, so there's that. Of course, Andre Robertson will be back, hopefully at some point. You can view him as the replacement for one of these guys. I mean, for as bad as Ferguson has been on offense, he's at least a little bit more of a threat from outside than Robertson is. Even so, I think you could argue that Robertson is still a better offensive player because he's just smarter with the way he cuts and grabs offensive rebounds and stuff. So that's one thing. You could just upgrade your wings a little bit. You could hope that Patrick Patterson's 3-pointer just figures itself out, but I don't know if it's going to. That's been kind of on a downhill for a couple years. You could fear that Nerlens Noel is just going to start sucking on defense. I think he's always liable to try too hard, but lately he's been pretty disciplined at the backup center position. So yeah, there's definitely some ways this team can get better. As far as ways they can get worse, I mean, there's a chance Westbrook doesn't turn it around and his efficiency just remains bad. There's a chance that Paul George falls back down because while he's having a hell of a 31 games, he may just not really be this good, but he may be this good. He's 28 years old. He can keep on improving. There's a chance that Jeremy Grant is not as good of a 3-point shooter as he is right now, which is 38% on 3 attempts a game. But even so, if you make me guess which way it's going to go, I would lean more towards this team remains about as good as they are now, or things go a little bit better, because even if some guys start to fall off a little bit, you can just hope that Russ can get back to somewhere close to where he was at least last year, where his efficiency was still a little rough. And I think that would carry you through. Now, talking about where these guys are at in the Western Conference and all that. I mean, the one thing they have going for them that I would favor for them versus a lot of the teams in the West is that there's a chance that they could have the best player in the game or the two best players in the game, or if not that, those two can at least play the other team's best guys almost neck and neck. So in the case of like LeBron with the Lakers, right? Like obviously LeBron's better than both of these guys. He's better than everybody, but you know, he's the one guy on the Lakers who can just kind of win you the game by himself. Whereas on OKC, it's like, let's say if those two teams are facing each other in some big game late in the year that could have a big effect on the playoff seedings. You know, maybe Russ goes for 37 and Paul George goes for 34. And that is too much for LeBron to deal with, even if he puts up like 33 points and 12 assists and like 13 rebounds, you know? That's the kind of thing that can happen with these two. Say the same thing if they're facing the Rockets. You know, James Harden could go off, or CP3 if he bounces back. Same thing with the Blazers, the Warriors. Well, not as much the Warriors, but you see what I'm getting at. You know, these two they're really good. But with that being said, I do think what you could view as this team's deep-rooted criticism, and the one thing that could lead to them having a disappointing series like they had last year against the Jazz, it wouldn't be Carmelo Anthony, so they got that going for them. But it's the fact of if it's a 6-point, or if there's like 6 minutes left in the game, it's a close game and all that, what are the plays going to be? Like, what is the offense going to be? Is it just going to be Westbrook and Paul George ISOs with the occasional Dennis Schroeder pick and roll thrown in there? Because I don't know if that's going to be enough. That's going to require Russ and PG to make a lot of tough shots. And, I mean, hell, we saw with OKC back when it was Russ and Kevin Durant that sometimes got them into trouble. But you could make the argument of we've already seen Westbrook this season just be a little bit more okay with not doing everything, and that's 30 games in. So maybe by the 60th or 70th game of this year, perhaps he's even more willing to not do everything, and he's actually moving off the ball a little bit more, and he's cutting every now and then by the time the playoffs start, I don't know. I mean, there's a chance Westbrook could be like, you know, in a close game, maybe it's like a 2-1 series, he'll be like, oh crap, this isn't working, just give me the ball, and then he'll chuck up a bad shot. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible, so it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I think they're pretty damn good. Perhaps one more wing player who can knock down some threes. Keep on keeping on with this Westbrook off-ball thing. Don't get too frustrated when he has a random moment like last night. And it'll probably work out. Once again, I have an Instagram, top comment, linked to the channel as well. And that's it.